Hello everyone, this is Jotto and welcome to Versus Series, where a player from my team, Acebreakers, plays against a well-known or up-and-coming pro player. Couple things for this week. First of all, the microphone is different. Yeah, my other microphone broke. So I'm going to get a new one in a couple of weeks. It's already been ordered, but it needs to get here. So unfortunately, I'm going to have to use this for the next couple of weeks. Anyway, as for other news, I couldn't do a weekly this weekend because I was a bit busy. I could have done one, but it would have been in the middle of the week and it would have had a weird schedule. So I'll get one up this weekend if I can, but sorry about that. And last thing, I've actually already recorded this video and uploaded it, but the audio was really weird in-game, and I've sort of added it to my list of things to check before the video goes up thing, which is actually quite a long list now. You'd be surprised how many things can go wrong. But anyway, so I apologize for the 40 or so people who actually saw that. This is going to be a much better version, and since I've already done the commentary once before, it should also be better in terms of commentary. So without further ado, let's get started, shall we? So, first things first, both players banned Hunter. So, Crispy is opening with the Token Druid list that Kalento used to get #1 Legend last season, and Gnimsh is using a Miracle Rogue. Now this particular Miracle Rogue is playing 1 Azure Drake with Loetheb, and it's also playing 1 Gnomish Inventor, Singular Earthen Ring, double sap to help with Hunters, and only 1 Cold Blood because you don't really need to push for damage that much anymore. So, onto the mulligans. Now, Gnimsh has a interesting one here. I think you just send back the Drake because you can keep the SI with Deadly Poison. And I would say for Crispy, you mulligan everything apart from Harvest Golem and go from there. And that appears to be what he's going for. One last change to the series before we move on, as I've seen Gnimsh is sporting the new card back, is that we've changed the series to, it's still best of 3, but if someone gets 2-0'd, then you still play the 3rd game since there's an extra deck lying around, and it means that the series is always 3 games, which is much nicer. Now the first couple turns are going to be fairly simple here. Crispy's going to lead out with the Shade. Now Shade and Naxxramas along with Echoing Ooze are the 2 new additions to Token Druid. Shade helps a lot with the combo, it helps a lot with being a late game way of pushing damage as well, so this Shade will probably sit around a bunch. And Echoing Ooze is just a nice extra Haunted Creeper in the deck. Now this Shade of Naxxramas is a very interesting card. It's a very skill testing card. Some people leave it around for the combo, some people use it to trade and wait until the perfect moment to attack with it. Others use it as an aggro card. It's very interesting to see how you can use it and sort of where it's going here. Now in this case he doesn't want to trade with it because it can become a 4/4, which is bigger than any of the other 3/3s in the deck. And as a result, he's just going to leave it there. Now, Gnimsh is just going for the damage race at this point. He does have Leroy in his hand and Loetheb next turn, so he's encouraging the Shade to trade while he still gets some damage in. Now, Crispy does have the option of going Harvest Golem and trading here with the Shade. It means that he has to use a spell on this, although in this case he does have Shiv, so it doesn't really affect much. Now, he should Shiv first, just to see what he draws. He's going to Shiv no matter what, I would say. So you're going to have to Shiv first. Draw first is always the best way of doing it. Now, he's got a couple options here. He can either clear the Harvest Golem with the Fan, or he can play a 4/4 Van Cleef. I think I like the 4/4 Van Cleef, simply because you have Loetheb in your hand. But I could definitely see going for the Fan of Knives here. I think that's me just being a bit more of an aggressive board control-y player in general, where I like having board control if I have minions on the board, whereas in this case it's having board control by removing your opponent's stuff. Now this Spectral Knight is going to be an absolute nightmare to deal with. He has Defender of Argus in his hand as well, and this is just absolutely brutal. Absolutely brutal. Now this Loetheb doesn't affect too much because there are no spells in his hand, but it's still a 5/5. So we're probably going to see the Claw come down in taunt form. He wants to preserve the life on this Spectral Knight if he can. Spectral Knight's a bit like Yeti against Priest in this matchup, where it just gets in for 4 damage over and over again. There's not much they can do about it. Oh, we've got the second Shadow Step coming off The top for Gnimsh, I'm assuming he's just going to go for the damage race. Now, in this case, I would actually just play the Edwin Van Cleef and dagger up, get a 4-4 on the board, push some damage. So, yeah, I think I'd definitely go for the Edwin here. You want to push damage to win next turn. Although, I think it is still a very, very difficult decision. The main way I'm looking at this is kind of like, how big do I really want the cleaves? What he's scared of, though, is swipe. The problem is if his opponent has swipe, he didn't test for it with the cleave earlier. So if his opponent has swipe, he just loses his entire board and then he has a useless hand. That's the main concern here. I do feel as if he's in a situation where if his opponent has swipe, he just loses. So I don't think you can play around it, but it is definitely a testament to whether or not he is a safe player or a slightly riskier player. He's known for playing aggro decks, however, being an aggro player and being a risky player are two different things. Like, zoo players are not that risky normally, because it's a lot about board control. Now, he's got a couple of options here. I think the best one is actually Shade into Defender, because then he can just flat kill the Loatheb or go face. I think you kill the Loatheb here personally. Yeah. And Fan of Knives off the top. That means he is definitely going to go ahead and clear this Spectral Knight. Unfortunately, the backstab's pretty useless here. I think you go Blade Flurry Cleave. I think you just have to slam the Cleave at this point. Make him trade some stuff. It also does 1 damage to him. I definitely think you have to play the Van Cleave. This is as big a Van Cleave as you're ever going to get. It's a 6-6. Yeah, and he's going for it. Yeah, he wants Van Cleave to be a win condition as opposed to a pressure card. Which is a telling, it's quite telling because a lot of players play that very differently. Now, he has a couple options here. I think because I'm a safer player, I'd go for the Innervate Claw that is in taunt form, because I'm scared of Preparation Sap. Because at the moment I'm thinking is like, how do I lose this game? It's very unlikely, but Leroy Shadow Step, Prep Sap is actually lethal. So I think you just want to go for the taunt here, just in case. He's going for the charge, which is also fine. Like basically, if you play the taunt, then you can't lose no matter what on that turn. However, if you play the cat form, it means that you can pressure him to the point when he's going to die pretty quickly. Now in this situation, he has an exceptionally difficult turn here. I think I would actually backstab the 4-4 and then eviscerate the 4-2, because you want to keep that Shade off the board. It has taunt, you just want to get rid of it. Then you can actually attack his face with the dagger, and then you have lethal next turn. The problem is you've sapped a Druid of the Claw, so he has the taunt. And Crispy's actually in a very good spot right now because he plays the taunt, and then the following turn he has Ancient Allure as well, so he can go for the long game. He doesn't need to win here. There was no Gadget's Hand for Gnimsh, so he's going to run out of gas. Okay, he's going for the backstab on the 2-4. I think backstabbing the 4-4 is better because it means you can top deck. You can top deck something a bit later. I mean, yeah, he was thinking of going backstab and then killing that, but he realized he has to go for the lethal here. That was actually a mistake on his part there. He should have just eviscerated the 4-2 and then saved the backstab. He was going to go for the claw, but he thought, well, I have to kill Shade. So, slight misstep. I mean, yeah, I made the same mistake there actually, where I was thinking, well, you need to combo it. You actually don't. It's tunnel vision. And that is the end of the game. There is no way past that Druid of the Claw, and he's just gonna smash his face in with bears until he dies. He just wanted to see what that top deck was, and it is a Eviscerate that cannot be comboed without using Leroy. There is no combination he can actually use here to survive. He has to Leroy the 4-6 and then Eviscerate the 4-4 and attack a 1-1, and I think he's still dead. Yeah, because then his opponent has, what, 5 damage on board, plus Savage Roar, or Swipe, or Force of Nature. I mean, he knows the game's over, but he might as well sort of think, well, can I possibly survive at least? This is when you've got Crispy panicking as soon as he sees Leroy, because he's like, well, if he has Sap, I'm dead. But the combination of cards was so unlikely there that it's not even something to be really worried about, although you still do. So that's the end of the game, and that was more of a case of what happens when Miracle just doesn't get gadgets down. It just ran out of gas, and it drew its combo cards, whereas Crispy drew a bit more of a stable version, so he just won. Now, Gnimsh has brought in the exact same deck list. Yes, this is Kalento's token list. It's an exact mirror match. Both are playing the exact 30 of each other. So, I'm not really going to comment too much on this matchup before we go in, because it is an exact mirror match, so it's going to be down to draws. So we'll go into the mulligans. Now, Gnimsh is going first, and he has a 3-card mulligan, and Crispy has a 1-card mulligan. I think you just send back the defender and then be happy with your hand. And that appears to be what he's doing. He might keep the Wrath. He's debating keeping this Wrath. Yeah, he is. I agree with keeping the Wrath because it's kind of like if your opponent has a Harvest Golem, you want to be able to Wrath it and then Hero Power, especially going second, you can do that on turn 3 if you need to. Now, the reason he's not innervating the Shade is because he could just lose to Keeper. Because you play it and then it sits there for 4 turns. And the Shade is amazing if it's only 1 card being invested into it. But if you innervate it and you sit around for 4 turns and then he Keepers it after you get 1 swing in, it's such a blowout. So good call on that. You don't really ever want to innervate 3-drops, although sometimes you have to. And it always feels terrible when you have to, but it does happen. Now Gnimsh has a very, very slow hand. He does, however, have the Cairn. Now, from what we've seen from Crispy's use of this Shade in the last game, is that after the Innervate Cairn, which I'm assuming is going to come down here. Yeah, it just seems like the best play. After the Innervate Cairn, we're probably going to see him silence the Cairn and then use Wrath with Innervate just because of how safe of a player he is. It does mean he gets locked out of turn 5 Ancient Allure. But it also means he has a 5/5 Shade on the board come next turn because he probably won't attack with it. It also means he has a 2/1 and a 2/4. So he used Innervate, Wrath, and half a Harvest Golem. So he technically 3 for 2'd himself there. However, this Shade is going to be a 2 for 1. So it ends up working out. I think you have to play the Spectral Knight here. Oh, Loatheb off the top. Alright, this turn would have been super awkward, but no, Loatheb just makes this easy. Slam the Loatheb, attack him for 4. Do you attack with the Shade? I don't think so. No, you don't. Because you want to save it for the Spectral Knight. Getting in damage is not that important. Alright, so Gnimsh is in a really awkward spot right here where I think he just has to play double 2-drop and then Hero Power the 2/1. It means his opponent has less minions on the board, but the quality of his minions is so much higher. So much higher. Now, at this point, Crispy has one of the weirdest plays you can possibly make. See what the top deck is? Innervate. I think I would probably innervate the lore. But the question is he dead to combo? I think he might be if he's going for the Fawn here. So, you go for the Fawn, you clear. Basically what this tells me at this point is that he wants to go for the long game because he has Ancient Allure, he has Innervate Wrath as well, so he can just go for it in 1 turn, and he can hit him in the face for 11 here. I assume he's going to go for the Shade attack this turn, because then his opponent might have Big Game Hunter. It's very unlikely, but it's possible, so you might as well get the damage in with Shade while you can. It means he gets 2 swings in with the Shade before it can get Big Game Huntered. If he gets silenced, that kind of sucks, but yeah. He does not, in fact, have the silence. Now, in this situation, I actually think you have to go for the swipe Savage Roar. As I said, I've done this once before, and he does end up going for the Ancient Allure heal. But I actually probably would have gone for the swipe Savage Roar, because Ancient Allure heal doesn't feel like a winning play at all. Ancient Allure draw feels like it feels like a way of winning. The problem is you're taking absurd amounts of damage. So at this point I'm thinking, well, if he has a bunch of burn, then I'm just going to die anyway, so you might as well clear this board. Basically what he could do here is he could Savage Roar and then completely clear this board with a swipe. And he'd still have 2 1/1s. He'd still have 2 1/1s and an Ancient Allure in his hand. So I think that's actually a mistake. It does mean, yeah, he's healing for 5, but he still takes 7 from the Shade. Now, we're probably just going to see Ancient of Draw into Innervate Wrath, most likely. And then trade the 5/5s. I don't really see how Crispy loses this game from here. I think Gnimsh needed to go for the clear last turn. Pretty bad draws from Crispy's point of view there, so I think you may just go for the Innervate Ooze and then trade the 5/5s. That was a pretty miserable draw because, I mean, the 2-drop is fine because you have Innervate, but the 3-drop would have been nice if it would have been like a swipe or something like that. Harvest Golem doesn't do much at this point of the game. It's one of those cards you play it because it's good early. I do find it quite funny that the past 2 games kind of showcased how powerful Shade can be in Druid decks because it's a late game, or it's an early drop that can be a late game card that also helps with combos. But it didn't really showcase Echoing Ooze at all because there wasn't really a snowball board position that ever happened. I mean, Crispy has a snowball board position here, but that's because the Shade is hitting him in the face for 7. So it's kind of not quite the same thing. Now he could go Force of Nature here and Hero Power and clear out most of this. But I think at that point you don't have combo at all, and you have 2 Savage Roars instead, which is really awkward. So you could also go for Savage Roar Swipe. He's pretty much just dead to combo at this point. He can't heal himself out of it. Savage Roar Swipe would kill both guys and leave him with 2 1/1s. Unless he goes for the trades on the Oozes. Which actually might be a valid point because 1 Savage Roar will do 4 on those. No, he needs double Savage Roar for it to matter actually. Because double Savage Roar will do 8 on there and only 2, so that negates the increased attack of the 5/5. It would appear he's really thinking about this, and to be honest I can't blame him. This is a really hard play. I think it would have been much easier to do this last turn, because then you'd have Ancient Allure in your hand as a response to his Ancient Allure. But unfortunately he's not really in a position where he can go for this. Yeah, he's trying to maintain his board position. The main problem with this is that if his opponent has Swipe, he just loses. But he doesn't. He has Defender instead. I should imagine we're going to see the Wrath on a 1/1. We could also see Harvest Golem Defender. But I would say Wrath on a 1/1 and then Spectral Knight. The reason you Wrath is just see what you draw. You might get Karen, you never know. I mean, the other option, as I said, is in fact Harvest Golem. You could also just go Spectral Knight, Harvest Golem, or Spectral Knight Hero Power. He's going for board position. I think the only reason he's doing this is because he's seen a Savage Roar. If he hadn't seen a Savage Roar, I don't think he would have done that. Now, Gnimsh is in the most awkward position ever because he has 23 damage. He cannot kill his opponent. It is not possible. He only has 23 damage, and he has to go for the Fun Roar to clear here, and it's one of the hardest decisions you can make. Although, to be honest, if he Fun Roar clears, I could see him winning this game. The problem is he's only on 8 life, so that leaves him in a bit of a weird spot, quite frankly. Let's see how he does this. I think you just have to Fun Roar clear. Yeah, he's calculating just to make sure. He doesn't want to miss lethal here. But no, it's 23. It's 23, that's not lethal. He has to go for the clear here, and he's cutting it a bit close on time, but it should be okay. Gets to trade off his entire board. He does get in for 5 though. And he runs out of time exactly. Alright, so that's half the equation on how he's going to win this game. That swipe helps out a lot. The second defender, not so much. That second defender is pretty useless, actually. Oh, Loetheb saves him for a turn. He's putting his opponent on double swipe right now. I would actually have put that in taunt. I think what I would have done there is your opponent having double swipe is really unlikely. I mean, yeah, he got it, but his opponent having double swipe now is pretty unlikely, so what I'd probably do is hero power, taunt up, and then Wrath. Because you want to get to 9 life. If you can get to 9 life through hero powering, you're safe. But he can't. So, unless he draws Ancient of Lore to heal, he's just dead. Now, I think Crispy should probably just... I think you just hero power. You want to save this defender. You never know, you might need it. Even though this game is most likely won, he can still have Ancient of Lore, and if he does, I think he wins. And he gets Shade of Naxxramas, pretty much the worst card you can possibly have in this situation. So now he's going to have to Wrath his own guy. Now he should Wrath before attacking, because you never know what you're going to get. But he has to Wrath his own guy. Which is really awkward. Wrathing your own guy can be super awkward. It's quite irritating actually, but he needs to draw Ancient of Lore here. That's what he needs. Ancient of Lore. He has one chance of getting it. Defender of Vargas. Now, wrong type of burn you're playing around, unfortunately. Wrong type of burn. There aren't any Druids of the Claw coming out here, it's just double swipe. Double swipe. Yeah, he missed 2 damage there, but oh well. Yeah, he's got the double swipe, so he's just going to close out the game now. Alright, so that's the end of Game 2. Now, ordinarily, that would be the end of the series. However, we are doing the 3rd game, because I want 3 games in each video. So, Gnimsh is bringing in Handlock. This is a deck that's not really seen that often. No, I think it's actually decent right now in ban formats. If you can ban Hunter, it's a good deck. If you can't ban Hunter, don't play it. However, this particular deck is playing one of the Leroy combos, so it's playing Faceless, Power Overwhelming, and Leroy, as all one-offs. It's also playing 1 Mortal Coil, not 2. That's interesting with the amount of Haunted Creepers around. 1 Black Knight and 1 Siphon instead of double Siphon, also interesting. And it's also playing the Ragnaros. Now, the way this matchup tends to work is that if the Handlock draws well, he wins. If he draws badly, he loses. It's actually got very little to do with the Druid. Especially considering the Druid player does not have access to Big Game Hunter. So I'd actually put this... I think I'd put this in the Handlock's favor, because if he gets Giants, or if he gets Twilights with no silences, he's just going to win. So, moving on to the mulligans. Now, Gnimsh has the easy mulligans ever, which is basically you just mulligan anything that doesn't cost 4 usually. And Crispy has Harvest Golem, which is the only thing you want to keep in that hand. So pretty easy mulligans, I'd say. Unfortunately, Crispy has to go for the Innervate Harvest Golem. This is one of my least favorite plays in the entire game, although sometimes you just have to do it, and that's why it's even more irritating. It's not a bad play, but sometimes you just have to do it, and it feels wrong, because it means that your Harvest Golem is going to be a 2 for 2, not a 1 for 2. Alright. Gnimsh has the Twilight Drake on turn 3. Always a good, strong play. And the Twilight Drake on turn 4. If we don't see a Silence coming out of Crispy by turn 4 or 5, I think he's just dead. And see the Shade come out here. It would have been nice to get that Shade on turn 1, but he didn't. Coin Twilight coming out here. Now this Shadow Flame, Shadow Flame is the best way of removing Shade, I think. And one of the only ways of removing Shade. So if he gets it, that's just a way of clearing that thing for free. But we're just going to see Twilights coming down. Twilight and then trade into a Harvest Golem. Get that token count. Off the board, preferably. Because Hamlock does a lot of damage to itself, so you always have to be a little sketchy on how fast you get into the combo range. Alright, so we do have Echoing Ooze. I think he has to clear a Drake at this point. So I think you swipe the 4/6 and then run the token into it. Start getting these things off the board prompto. And he appears to agree with me. Alright, so he's going for that swipe play, try and get these Twilight Drakes off the board. No silences means that these Twilight Drakes are pretty hard to kill. Now for this turn, I think I would actually go for Loatheb here. You could also taunt up your Twilight. Try and stop yourself from getting really low. Yeah, I think I agree with this. He's trying to stop himself from getting under 14 or so, because what he could have happened there would be Shade attacks, he takes 7, and then he doesn't have Molten, so he just loses. Now for this turn, the obvious play is Cairn. However, I actually think that playing Cairn will lose you the game in this situation. I think you should play Ooze and Wrath, and then kill the Drake. The reason for that is because what's going to happen this turn is Silence into Shadow Flame. And I think that's just the end of the game. Silence the 4/5, kill the 2/3, Shadow Flame your Twilight Drake, and I think that's just the end of the game. I don't really see a way back from that. Ancient of Lore may help, but I don't really see a way back from that. He's got too many sturdy minions in his hand. He has Loatheb, he has Sludge Belcher, Faceless Manipulator. There's just too much. I mean, we're going to see Ancient of Draw come out here no matter what, I would say. You could go for board clear, but that's not really a winning play. Ancient of Lore is. Oh, Ragnaros. I think setting up Rag for next turn would be really nice. So, Sludge Belcher into Power Overwhelming or Ancient Watcher. You could go Ancient Watcher and set up a taunt. The problem is you don't have any silences and you're on the offense, not defense. So I think Power Overwhelming is the correct one here. You're not going for the 20 damage combo, I'll put it that way. You're getting in more damage than that, so you don't need it. Now he only has a 12 damage combo, but he does have a Rag, which is going to do a lot of mileage. A lot of it. Now, for this turn, I think you may just have to draw again. I mean, you could go for Wrath on the 2/3 and Spectral Knight, but I think you just have to draw again and hope for the best. This is a pretty rough situation for Crispy. This turn, he's just drawn, so I'd actually go for the Loatheb over the Ragnaros here, because he's just drawing cards. so why even risk it? You can just take him down to 17. Now, Leroy is lethal at the moment, but regardless, I think Ragnaros is just going to win the game. There is no answer to a Ragnaros in Crispy's hand right now. I guess he could double Wrath it and then use the Keeper, but that's about it. He does have 9 mana, so you could silence the 3/5 and then trade and play your own Loatheb. Stop any spells coming down. I think that's the play he's going for. This is a really difficult play though. I think that's the correct one. Stop your opponent from running around rampant. Yeah, we're going to see the Keeper. I actually think you should probably trade with the 3/5 at this point. Just silence it to stop it from making a 1/1, 1/2. And Loatheb. Unfortunately, there's the Leroy. So Leroy, Faceless, is lethal with Loatheb. If he'd killed Loatheb instead, it was still lethal because he had the 3/5 and the 2/3 on the board. So, that is the end of the series, as Gnimsh closes it out with a comeback game. So basically that series went 2-0-0-1, I guess. But anyway, so Crispy takes the series 2-0, but the whole thing goes 2-1 in his favor, because Gnimsh managed to steal that game at the end. Tell me what you think about the new format, by the way, the 2-1 thing. Really curious to hear about that. I think having 3 games in every series is better because it means the video is a little longer and it feels more complete. But I'd love feedback on that. But anyway, as for the 3 games, we had the first one was a situation where the rogue doesn't draw his stable stuff, i.e. Gadgets, and he draws his combo instead. And the druid drew the stable stuff, but not really the combo. So you're in a situation where the stable board just won because he drew 2 taunts. That's basically what happened there. I mean, he only played 1 taunt, but the other one got sacked. So he effectively had 2 taunts, and that was just too much. Now, the second game was a mirror match that actually resulted in both players using their damage combos to clear the board. It was very, very interesting. It ended up really coming down to if Gnimsh had the healing, he would have won. Because if he had been on 10, 12 life maybe when he stabilized, I think he would have won the game. If he played that swipe roar combo a turn earlier to clear the shade, I think he may have won. But it's difficult to tell where the game would have gone if he had done that. So I don't know. We'll have to. I mean, you can look into that more. But I think Gnimsh could have won that game, but it was very, very difficult to call. It was a very, very good game. It was a very, very interesting one. No damage combo nonsense as we normally used to with these mirror matches. And the third game was basically, as I said before the game, the handlock drew Double Drake, and Shadow Flame, and Combo, and Loatheb, and everything, and the Druid didn't get his keepers. He drew well, but you need keepers in the matchup. If you don't get Keeper of the Grove, you just lose. So, there were no giants, however, you just can't beat the Drakes without keepers. And that's basically what happened there. He took too long to kill the Drakes, and it just didn't work out. I think the play that lost the game was the Cairn, but that's one of those sort of next level misplays that it's so hard to figure out. It's the reason why a lot of people take like 80 seconds on a turn that looks obvious. It's because it's not always that obvious. It actually is quite difficult sometimes. So that was one of those misplays. It's very, very difficult to figure out, but sometimes it just happens and you have to move forward and sort of learn from them. But anyway, as for now, thank you all for watching. If you like the content, please subscribe. If you have any feedback besides the microphone, because I know about that, put it in the comment section below. As for now, this has been Jotto, signing off.